morning, everyone. And Tarun, thank you so much for your time. But tell me one thing, the first question when we talk about Hyundai is Hyundai, tomato. What's the correct pronunciation?
So it's very simple. It's Hyundai. So
Hyundai.
Sunday and Hyundai.
Sunday and Hyundai. Everyone get it right? Can we all say Hyundai? Hyundai, yes. So that's the right one. Now that we have the record straight, tell me what role has Hyundai played in shaping India's mobility landscape so far? Because you've been an iconic car on the roads.
Yes, of course. We came to India in 1996, and would you believe it? Next year is going to be 30 years of Hyundai in India. 30 years. Of course, when we came in, the industry was very different. India is not an easy market for global auto OEMs to succeed. We all know that.
Why do you say that?
Because India is very typical, and sometimes you try to bring in the global solutions to India, and they don't work. Because India is very price sensitive. Indian roads are very different. We have all kinds of challenges. So Hyundai decided that we have to give respect to India. And when I say this, what I mean is that, for example, Indian women wear saris, and very, very sensitive towards that. So ingress of the car and coming out of the car becomes very important. And that is when the tall boy design Santro came in, and it became an instant hit. So it was a very local solution, not that we just brought in a global car and tried to push it into India. The second thing was, because the Indian auto industry was only evolving, Hyundai was one company with very global, technologies. So if some of you would remember, we brought in the MPFI engine, multi-point fuel injection, power steering. I mean, what better solution than a power steering for India? Then when diesel came in, CRDI, and Creta. I think 2015, you remember India was a small car market. What changed it? And very humbly, I would say probably Creta changed it. From a small car market, from a functional requirement, we became an aspirational country. A country of youth where people want to evolve, where people want to be seen like their global peers. So that was the second thing. But the most important thing I would say is our humble contribution towards nation building. Very humbly, I would say we started with Chennai Plant 1, then Chennai Plant 2. We had our R&D center in Hyderabad, now Pune. So the ecosystem, the economy, job creation, our dealers, our vendors, I think playing an important role in putting India on wheels and contributing to the Indian economy. Exports, again, make in India. We all talk about make in India. Hyundai, right from the time we set foot in India, exports has been a key cornerstone of our strategy. And until date, we are the largest cumulative exporter from India, So we are the hub for emerging markets. So that is again something which is very, very important. Of course, societal impact in terms of contributing to sports. Your anchors mentioned about Samarth initiative. Frankly speaking, 3 years back, we wanted to see that what is something where probably there is a lot that can be done in terms of a societal impact. And we realized that people with disabilities probably is an area where probably much can be done, especially when you see Indian psychology or Indian, sometimes I would say, behavior, is not that sensitive. So could we bridge the gap? Could we make the life more inclusive? And that is something which has really, really, again, helped us to move the needle in terms of narrative. We talked about the Honorable Minister talked about the Para Athletic Championship. We were very proud and humbled to be associated with that. It gives us so much pride that a disabled archer has qualified for the in the normal team. This is something which we all dream for. So I think it has been a very fulfilling journey, and to cap it all with the biggest IPO, which has made us truly Indian, So I think it has been a very fulfilling journey in terms of mobility in India over the past 30 years. Thank you. Thank you.
That was quite an IPO, I must say. But since that's such an interesting anecdote that you shared, that Indian women wore saris and that's why came the tall boy cars first, and now everything is about SUVs. Since you did talk about, your initiative like Samarth.
Yeah.
We're living in the times when cars are not just cars, it's all about the tech that the car brings in. Tell me, what kind of initiatives, when it comes to sort of assistive technology integration, are you now inculcating and incorporating in your cars?
Look, I think we started with the swivel seats because we saw that this was a very clear requirement where, people with some locomotor disabilities would find it difficult to get inside the car. So that was one thing. But now I think there's a lot of demand coming in where people want to drive. And so very soon, in fact, as early as the next quarter, we are soon going to have an assistive device which will help people to, accelerate the car as well as braking solutions. So I think this is the second thing. The third thing is you talked about technology. And we take a lot of pride in having, for example, now the CCNC screen. Now, is it really assistive enough for somebody with some kind of an impeachment? For example, we say, okay, khulja sim today, open sunroof. So can a person with speech impairment also, will your car respond to that? So these are some of the challenges our tech teams are working on. And the whole
like
idea
a Siri
is,
for the car, right?
Absolutely. The whole idea is that, there should be no barrier for people with disabilities when we are talking about, solutions. In fact, we want to move beyond cars. For example, our website, it is accessible with the help of event solutions so that people with, some limitations can also access the website. Our dealerships are wheelchair enabled. And of course, the most important thing is that we want that everybody in India, whether he is, even if he is actually not disabled, but they become a part of this moment. And I'm so happy over the past 3 years, we have seen so many companies really joining this and really making India more accessible.
A huge round of applause. I mean, that's called some level of personalization and customization,
Absolutely.
which I guess everyone needs now with the number of hours one spends on Indian roads. But tell me, since we're talking about the way technology is going to evolve and the way that's going to get incorporated into the automobile industry, when you look 5 to 10 years from now, and we're talking about everything changing, not just our preferences for cars, but also our preferences for fuel, and alternative fuel. Yesterday we had, Minister Gadkari who talked about hydrogen being the future fuel. So we're talking about a very dynamic, a very agility-driven industry and fast evolving at that. 5 to 10 years from now, what do you think the Indian automobile industry is going to be like?
I shall be very honest. This is my 33rd year in the Indian auto industry. 33 years, Probably, I would say
You're a veteran.
Veteran and probably somebody who's still working and has the most experience, in terms of the, especially in the sales and marketing area. I think the transformation we are seeing today is 1 in 100 kind of transformation. And it is happening at 2 levels. One is people are now moving from ownership to experience. So it's no more only about having an asset as a car. It's about the experience, whether it's shared mobility or leasing, etc., etc. But the second most important is this whole thing about cleaner mobility. And I would say that we will see one of the biggest trends we are going to see is electrification at scale. So while the world is talking about maybe, electric cars, and yesterday, Mr. Gadkari was also asked, and that, okay, penetration going down. But please understand, India still the penetration of electric vehicles was only 2.5% last year. And people thought that will it move? But in this year, things have suddenly changed. And already we are close to 5% electrification. What changed? That many companies brought in new cars. There was a PME drive scheme which talks about the charging infrastructure and improving the charging infrastructure, which is the biggest enabler for electric vehicles. So that is the second thing which happened. And of course, people are now working on localization. For example, Hyundai has already localized the battery packs. We are talking about cell manufacturing. So one big change which is going to happen is this. The second is the software-defined vehicles. I think as we move along, we will see that car is going to become the third space, and more software-defined vehicles are going to come in. We just launched the new Hyundai Venue, and it has received such a great response because people want their cars to talk to themselves, people want their cars to talk to their phones, people want their cars to talk to their health devices and everything and anything. So that is the second thing. The third thing I think is that safety is going to go to the next level, and we are going to see a democratization of safety. You know, of course, Mr. Gadkari was here and he talked about the highways and the expressways. Now the speed limits have increased. You know, I remember there was a time when the speed limit was 50 kilometers or 55 kilometers on highways. Today we are talking about 120 kilometers. And we need maybe ADAS. And we are talking about democratization of ADAS. If somebody had asked me, Tarun, that 9 out of 14 models of Hyundai will have ADAS as an option, I would have not believed it 5 years back. But that is the truth today. So I think we will see that the gap between the global peers and India in terms of the kind of cars our customers get is going to reduce, and a lot of cleaner mobility solutions will come in. And India being such a big country, not only electrics, but I think hybrids, hydrogen as an energy source. And here I like to say that we have tied up with IIT Madras to make an innovation center to develop the entire hydrogen ecosystem. We want to bring down the cost of hydrogen, and we believe that hydrogen could be a good transformative solution for energy needs, for industries, for power, and ultimately for mobility also. So I think a big change is on our way in the next 5 years.
Fast changing. Yes. But tell me, since you did talk about mobility for all, when it comes to India, India is a unique country. There is India and then there is a large faction of Bharat. When you talk about the EV adaptability, while metros, you still see a lot of EVs. The infrastructure is now getting there. At least the city that I live in Mumbai, most buildings now have an EV charging station, so you don't have to step out to charge your car. But that said, when it comes to rural India or tier 2 and 3 cities, the EV penetration still is at the two-wheeler stage. When do you think mobility for all can be achieved at scale? And what is it that you're doing at Hyundai for that?
I think that's a very good question. And India being such a big country, what is very important is to understand that car penetration in India is still at 33 per thousand. So there's a huge scope. I think one is thanks to Mr. Gadkari, I think the road infrastructure has improved very fast, and Indian industry, automobile industry, has really also stepped up. For example, Hyundai is already in 77% of the districts in terms of sales and service infrastructure. We plan to take it up to 85%. Then it is, while a fixed infrastructure is important, at the same time, we want to take the mobility at the doorstep of the customer. So we have more than 150 mobile service vans, which are really going to the nook and corner of the country to provide that kind of The third thing is, you would have seen in the Bharat Mobility Expo, we are trying to develop a e-3-wheeler last mile mobility solution. I think when we talk about inclusivity, this is probably going to be a big game changer. So we are using Hyundai Motor Company's R&D capability, and we have tied up with a big local Indian, two-wheeler player, three-wheeler player, to bring this kind of a last mile solution, which I think can really change the shape of rural mobility. And also, in metros also, although of course there are metro trains, but you will still need that kind of a last mile mobility, which is convenient, which is safe, and which is environment friendly. So I think the roadmap is very clear, and we are making a very conscious effort to really move fast on that.
But what about the infrastructure? For the infrastructure to reach the nook and crannies, as you called it, would it require backward integration from you at Hyundai?
Look, I think everybody has to play their part, and like I mentioned, as far as Hyundai is concerned, we started with the AC charging infrastructure, but then we did a market survey where people said AC charging takes 5 hours to 6 hours. That is point number one. Point number two, while every company is giving a very good home charging solution, but still customers are hesitant to take their vehicle on highways. So what we did, we took it upon ourselves to make, on the prominent highways, we are making DC fast charging stations, and today almost 150 odd have already been made. We want to take it up to 600. The second thing was the PME drive scheme. If you see, it was FAME 1, FAME 2, which was more about subsidizing the EVs. But based on the industry interface, I think the government also said that they're going to have 22,000 four-wheeler charging points across the country, which will really help increase the EV penetration in the country. So I think your question about infrastructure, it will not happen overnight, but I think all of us will have to join hands together. And I'm so happy that I see OEMs joining in, the government joining in, the power companies joining in, and so many private operators also coming in. So I'm sure that when all of us join in, the day is not far when this will, at least the charging infrastructure will not become a hindrance to people buying electric cars.
But, since we're on the subject of EV and we're in a city like Delhi where we're grappling with AQI, and, that was also one of the points of discussion that I had with Mr. Gadkari just last evening. What do you do about pollution, and how is it that water companies like you can actually help bring down pollution levels and improve the air quality that we breathe?
Absolutely. I think all of us have to play a role. And if you see in terms of our manufacturing, like for example, Chennai plant, we are RE100. We have already a captive solar operational. We are looking at wind power as well. So that is on the manufacturing. Then when we make EVs, not only it's about electric vehicles, we try to bring in sustainable materials for the cabin. So then we have already announced that we are going to have 50% of our portfolio will be greener fuels by 2030, which will include EVs, hybrids, CNGs. We are working on the hydrogen ecosystem, and that's a very strong project for us. So I think all of us are making, our contribution, and I'm sure that together, this question was asked even today morning, this is something which we still have a long way to go, but I'm 100% sure that once all of us put our mind together, and maybe the time has come for academia, OEMs, government, suppliers, everybody to sit together and see how we can really take care of the solution. Because I don't think there is a dearth of talent in the country. I mean, we have the best IITs, we have the best IIMs, we have the technology, we have the money, we have the power, GDP is growing. I think this is something probably which has not really been a top priority for us. I think time has come now to make it a top priority and find a solution.
You don't think the answer lies in buying less cars?
Look, like I said, India being such a big country, probably car penetration is still very low, but we need to find more shared mobility solutions. I think that is very important. So as the metro network is expanding in the country, we need to look at making last mile connectivity very convenient. And then people will really, look at sharing, and of course, leading to less pollution and less congestion on the roads.
Well saved. But, Tarun, today at the India Economic Conclave, the theme is navigating geonomics. And I mean, who better than the auto industry? Because I remember in 2021, 22 was it, when you had the chip shortage, then you had the rare earth magnet issue. The auto industry has really sort of, seen it all when it comes to all that plays out around the world and gets hard at. Tell me, is the rare earth issue now behind us? Or is it still a challenge?
Like I told you that this is my 33rd year in the auto industry. I'll be very honest, I never knew that car had so many chips until the chip shortage happened. Because the supply chain was such a well-oiled machinery. So while we saw demand fluctuating, sometimes, very high demand, sometimes grappling with no demand. But I thought supply chain was the most sorted thing, unless we had this COVID and all those things. I think, but that was probably an opportunity because all of us had an introspection, and we said that we cannot depend on one country for such, to run the entire ecosystem. And I think this was an eye-opener for all of us. We are very lucky that we are part of the Hyundai Motor Group, which is the third biggest group in the world in terms of automobiles. But I think in terms of the larger ecosystem, localization is something which people have taken it very, very seriously, especially in the last 5 years. We are at about 81% localization. We want to take it up to 90%. And we know that, this is something which which will really not only take care of the cost and making it more affordable, but also taking care of this so-called geonomics you talked about, and removing those uncertainties in the system. Look, nobody likes uncertainties in the system. Nobody likes risks in the system. And I think India has become a very, very strong alternative. And we see now all kinds of products. You see the iPhones being made. You see so many things happening. And I think this was probably a blessing in disguise that this kind of a thing happened and a shock happened. And everybody has started looking at India in a very, very positive way. You know, the global OEMs which are coming now, semiconductors are being made. Electronics, I say, is probably going to be the next 5 or 10 years where India is going to emerge a big superpower. I think a lot of it has to do with that, with those stress which came in 2021 because of those geopolitical issues.
Out of distress comes opportunity.
Absolutely.
But tell me, you know, since you did talk about exports and you gave the iPhone example, and who would know better than Hyundai? How much Hyundai makes in India and sells into the world? Tell me about your new Talegaon plant. More exports?
Absolutely, and I think that is very critical. So while we have to be very strong in the domestic market, but exports gives us the precious foreign exchange. We know what is the dollar-rupee rate today, 91. 91. I mean, this was unimaginable. And I think also exports gives us a lot of, like a stamp, international stamp about quality, the might of India, the power of India. And we have always taken exports very seriously. Like I said, we are the #1 cumulative exporter from India. Also, we are going to be the largest hub for Hyundai outside of Korea, you know, and hub for emerging markets. So we are now not only exporting cars, but also we have a good, strong R&D center in Hyderabad, where we are looking at, you know, going forward, you know, developing maybe cars in terms of not only for India, but for the emerging markets, Middle East, Africa, Latin America. So I think currently 21% of our production goes for exports. With the Talegaon plant coming in, the plan is to take it up to 30% by 2030.
Wow. A huge round of applause. 30% cars would be exported. So
Absolutely.
Made in India, but for the world.
Yes.
Is that the learning, though, as we grapple with the whole geoeconomics currently at play, that you can't have a very concentrated approach right now? You have to look at other countries, like you said. Export for the world, don't be totally focused and dependent on a particular country and the supply chain dynamics?
So there are two ways to it. One is like, for example, for us, because Hyundai is a big group, so we always had that opportunity. But I think what has happened is India's place in the global order is continuously going up and the respect is going up, which means the products from India are now much more appreciated and acknowledged and accepted by the other countries. So the opportunity is only going up. That is point number one. Point number two, because of our unique demographics, I think the price value equation is extremely good in terms of efficiencies of our plants. And we have a very strong local ecosystem in terms of the vendor ecosystem. I think that helps us to really produce and make sure that the risks associated are minimal. So I presume that going forward, not only Hyundai, I think all companies, the exports is only going to go up in automobiles, but not only automobiles, I think India has the potential to become an export hub across the chain. I mean, that's my dream and that's my vision.
Right. So, the one thing that I wanted to ask you is, at Hyundai, what is the strategy? There is so much competition in the market right now, so many global players trying to get the piece of the pie of the Indian, mobility sector right now. Where is it that you see Hyundai, say, in the next 5 to 10 years? What's the focus going to be in terms of pricing, products? And where do you see the Indian consumer moving? I mean, from COVID onwards, we've seen the SUV rage. Now everyone wants to feel safe. They want SUVs. They want cleaner fuel. What next could they want?
Look, I think it's all about the trust. So as far as Hyundai is concerned, we want to be the most trusted brand in India say by 2030. I think that is the vision. We have very clear vision we have, and our global vision is also progress for humanity. So I think that's very important. You need to be a problem solver. You need to make people's life convenient. So like you said, customers will keep on evolving. But the important thing is, do you keep your eyes and ears to the ground? Do you see not only their spoken demands, you also look at the latent demands. You know, I think there are some things which people don't speak out, but yes, they want. The other thing is, India's median age is 29, which means that we are a very young country, which means we are a very aspirational country. So you need to see that how you can provide those aspirational solutions, but at an affordable cost. And I think our scale, global scale, and of course the Indian scale will help us do that. The other aspect, which is again very, very important, is that you don't need to be only focused on one aspect of car sales or automobiles. I think you can do so much more from a country perspective. You know, like I said, energy. Energy is something which we all know that we are dependent so much on the imports. So how can you develop the hydrogen ecosystem, which can really, really make India self-reliant in hydrogen? And this is something which we have, again, we take it very seriously, because globally we are very strong in that, especially from a waste to hydrogen point of view. So we want to really make a big mark there. The other advantage is, like I said, because we are a company which is very successful in developed markets like US, Europe, Korea, you know, so I think India, the way it is going, like we talked about, we are already the 4th biggest economy in the world. We are going to be the 3rd biggest car market. Very, very important to bring in, you know, those kind of solutions which our young, aspirational Indian customers want. So we want to be the truly Indian brand, you know, made in India, made for the India. And if I may humbly say, most humbly say that today now is going to be led by an Indian for the first time in 30 years as well.
I was just going to say that.
Thank you.
Come 1st of January, ladies and gentlemen, the first Indian MD and CEO at HMIL.
Yes, I think
right?
it's a matter of great pride and of course a huge responsibility as well. Yeah.
And I'm sure you will fulfill that. But thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you
Great
very much.
speaking with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.